John Sholto Douglas was the Tucker Carlson of 19th century London. He was in every way a terrible person. When his father died, he inherited his father's absurd title of Marquess of Queensberry at age 14. Tucker Carlson's upbringing is the 20th century American version of Lord Queensberry's upbringing. They were both born rich enough to never have to work a day in their lives. They were both students who never achieved any high academic distinction. Like many of the most influential voices in the history of right-wing American media, Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, Lord Queensberry never finished college. Lord Queensberry was so disliked that he was not allowed to be a member of the House of Lords. His first wife successfully sued him for divorce on the grounds of adultery. He lived a life full of hatred, the full force of which he aimed at the brilliant Irish writer Oscar Wilde, who he believed was having an affair with one of Queensberry's sons. Homosexuality was a crime in Britain then, and Lord Queensberry convinced prosecutors to bring a criminal case against Oscar Wilde, which ended in a guilty verdict and a sentence of 2 years of hard labor, which Oscar Wilde served before spending the last few years of his life in exile in France. 4 years before he was prosecuted, with his classic novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, still being read around the world, Oscar Wilde wrote, "The only way to get rid of a temptation is to yield to it. Resist it, and your soul grows sick with longing for the things it has forbidden to itself, with desire for what its monstrous laws have made monstrous and unlawful." If Tucker Carlson had been commenting on the news of the day in 19th century London, we know whose side he would have been on. He would have been cheering on Lord Queensberry's torment of Oscar Wilde. And when Oscar Wilde was sentenced to hard labor for being a human being, Tucker Carlson would surely have let out one of those horrible, monstrous Carlson cackles that he alone seems to think is the sound of human laughter. That noise Tucker Carlson makes has been wrongly described as a childish giggle. A child's giggle is not full of hatred and cruelty. The sound Tucker Carlson makes at his most joyous, his most happy moments, when he is laughing, is a sound that Oscar Wilde surely would have called monstrous. The Marquess of Queensberry was a member of the social class that the British perversely call the nobility. There has never been anything noble about them, but they believe in their own nobility in the same way Tucker Carlson believes in his. The Marquess of Queensberry was known for one other thing besides attacking one of the world's greatest artists for his sexual orientation. Queensberry put his name on the rules of boxing. He didn't invent the rules. Queensberry just took them from someone else, put his name on them, and gets credit for the rules of boxing to this day. He believed there was a proper way to punch someone. There was no rule of boxing, according to Queensberry or anyone else, saying you can't kill your opponent, which is why punching people in the head, fully within the Queensberry rules of boxing, has sometimes left the recipient of those punches dead on the spot. There is, in the Queensberry rules, the illusion that there is a right way to violently beat someone, and Tucker Carlson believes, we now know, that only white men obey those rules. Tucker Carlson's perversion runs deep. Racism is a perversion that eats away at the brain and makes it smaller, as it has done with what's left of Tucker Carlson's brain. Last night, the New York Times revealed a text message written by Tucker Carlson the day after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. It was obtained in the discovery process in the Dominion lawsuit, which Tucker Carlson was too stupid to know was going to obtain all of his emails and text messages. This text message was not made public in the filings in the case but might have been made public if the case went to trial and Tucker Carlson was called as the second scheduled witness after Rupert Murdoch. The New York Times says the contents of this text were disclosed in interviews with several people close to Dominion Voting Systems' defamation lawsuit against Fox. On January 7, 2021, Tucker Carlson wrote a text that he thought was going to be read by one person and is now forever available to the world. He said, "A couple of weeks ago, I was watching video of people fighting on the street in Washington. A group of Trump guys surrounded an Antifa kid and started pounding the living shit out of him. It was 3 against 1, at least. Jumping a guy like that is dishonorable, obviously. It's not how white men fight. Yet suddenly I found myself rooting for the mob against the man, hoping they'd hit him harder, kill him. I really wanted them to hurt the kid. I could taste it." Taste it. What does that taste like? Tucker Carlson's perversion is so deep that he believes, among other things, that we all know what it's like to taste the desire to watch someone be beaten to death. What did Tucker Carlson taste when he was watching the video of George Floyd being killed, if he ever watched it? It's not how white men fight. He believes that deeply. The closest Tucker Carlson has ever been to a street fight is the one that he was watching in that video. But he believes, based on absolutely nothing but racism, it's not how white men fight. I've seen white men fight like that. I know white men who have fought like that. It was all white men, teenagers and their parents, who surrounded a friend of mine in Boston's all-white neighborhood of Charlestown when I was in high school and stabbed him, a wound that he managed to survive as we fled the scene with my brother driving the car to the hospital. Tucker Carlson has never experienced those white men in action. That video was the first time Tucker Carlson saw white men doing something he thought they didn't do. And his first impulse was about how great it was. What a deeply sick mind. Tucker Carlson's brand of right-wing conservatism and hardcore racism belongs to the Queensberry portion of the pure white American rich who were born rich and have never given a thought to how anyone else lives and never will. But they have imagined it. And they imagine it in purely racist terms. I have known born rich white people who have worked very hard in school, who've gone on to become, among other things, brilliant and caring physicians who save lives and hate everything about the way Tucker Carlson thinks. Being rich doesn't make you Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is a sickness. The New York Times is reporting that on the weekend before Fox decided to settle the Dominion case, the Fox board members found out for the first time about that text from Tucker Carlson revealed in the discovery process. The New York Times suggests that was a decisive factor in forcing Fox to pay Dominion the largest settlement in the history of defamation cases, and that it was a decisive factor in Rupert Murdoch's decision to fire Tucker Carlson. And I find that surprising. I personally doubt it. I think there is more, much more, that we don't know about what was revealed in the discovery process of the Dominion case that forced Rupert Murdoch to decide to fire the biggest star on his network, who he was paying to publicly be a racist. Tucker Carlson did not get fired because the Fox board discovered that he said it's not how white men fight. Tucker Carlson said many things as racist as that on television. It was a year before he was fired that the New York Times told the world and the Fox board that Tucker Carlson was the most racist show. His show was the most racist show in the history of cable news. That is from the very careful and restrained New York Times that doesn't easily make statements like that. The Fox board read that a year before Tucker Carlson was fired. Private racism could not get a public racist fired at Fox. There's more. There has to be. Which is why the New York Times and other news organizations are trying to get the redacted parts of the discovery evidence in the New England case made public. The modern version of fighting, the white-collar version, is lawyering. That's the closest Tucker Carlson has ever come to fighting, and he was terrified to the core by it. And we know that because at the end of his show, at the end of the week during which he was deposed under oath for 10 hours by the Dominion lawyers, Tucker Carlson talked about that before the audio recording was turned off at the Fox studio. That recording became public today with Tucker Carlson complaining about the Dominion lawyer in a way that shows the Dominion lawyer brilliantly did exactly what the lawyer set out to do, which was terrify and rattle Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson said, "That slimy little mother effer sitting across from me, the hate I felt for that guy, I never feel that way, because I don't want to feel that way. I think it's wrong. It's bad. It's totally bad for you to feel that way. But that guy, he triggered the shit out of me." Tucker Carlson was outraged that he was asked under oath, "Where do you live?" That's the first question in every under oath deposition. And this buffoon, this coddled, privileged buffoon, did not know that. Tucker Carlson lost the only fight he was in this year to the Dominion lawyer who triggered him. At the end of his text message, in which Tucker Carlson says, "It's not how white men fight," Tucker Carlson does his version of white supremacist introspection when he examines his joyful feelings about watching someone he hoped would be beaten to death before his eyes. Tucker Carlson's final line of that text is, "How am I better than he is?" Tucker Carlson, of course, means that as a rhetorical question. He means, I am better than he is. And that is Tucker Carlson's right-wing religious belief about the world, posed with fake introspection as a question. How am I better than he is? Like Lord Queensberry, Tucker Carlson will surely spend the rest of his life getting the answer to that question wrong.